Today we're doing a very special video. We're looking at the 40th anniversary of the very first Friday the 13th film. 1980, May 9th, Friday the 13th. And let's do it, let's talk about it. So let's talk about the original film, let's talk about the highs and lows of the franchise, and let's talk about where the franchise is right now as a standstill due to legal reasons. So yeah, let's talk about it. So the original Friday the 13th franchise, the original Friday the 13th film came out on May 9th, 1980, and I'm not too sure on the UK release, for the UK release or the US release, just May 9th, so we'll talk about it. 40th anniversary, done deal. And on that note as well, in 11 days time, May 20th, is the UK release of The Empire Strikes Back. It's the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, the greatest Star Wars film of all time, so I'll 100% be doing a video on that. So yeah, Friday the 13th, the very first film was fantastic. I love it. It's one of those horror films that not a lot of people know, obviously, but a lot of people forget that it actually isn't Jason who's the killer. Jason only appears at the very, very end in a sort of carry moment. And that's a quote from Sean S. Cunningham, the original director, and also the lead producer of the complete Friday the 13th franchise. He wanted his carry moment. I mean, Friday the 13th was made for very cheap. You had Tom Savini doing the visual effects, makeup effects. He's a legendary. Obviously, if you don't know who he is, then Jesus Christ, do your homework. Very big collaboration with George A. Romero on all of his zombies. Obviously, you know, rest in peace, George A. Romero. He's sadly passed away. But there's new of the Dead films in the works, we'll say. I mean, Zack Snyder, who obviously, we all know who Zack Snyder is, he directed Dawn of the Dead 2004 remake, reboot, what you want to call it. He's now doing an updated sequel starring Dave Bautista, and it's called Army of the Dead, and it's set in Las Vegas, and it's a direct sequel to his remake, his 2004 remake. I'm looking forward to that because I liked his remake. His remake was very, very good, and I always wanted a Dawn of the Dead too. And we never got it, but we are now, obviously, but within vein of, it's a sequel, but it's not like Dawn of the Dead 2, it's just a whole new, like, Army of the Dead, because the thing is, with George A. Romero, his films weren't exactly sequels. I mean, you had Night, Dawn and Day, but they weren't like Night of the Living Dead Part 2, it was just separate sequels, kind of thing. There were no connection at all, like, none of them had like, oh yeah, remember what happened, like, at night time, it wasn't like anything like that. And that's what it was quite beautiful about the franchise, is when you watch it, you believe that you're watching the nighttime, the morning, and the daytime. And I thought it was beautiful. I mean, the original films, Land of the Dead and Survival of the Dead, it's the three, night, dawn, and day. And even Tom Savini's 1990 remake, so 30th anniversary of that as well. There you go. Happy birthday, Tom Savini's original Night of the Living Dead remake. I loved that. I thought it was brilliant. Tony Todd was so good, so badass. It worked so well for the 90s audience. Didn't get a lot of love from fans or critics, but I think now it's become a cult classic. So anyway, Friday the 13th, great film. I mean, when you first watch it, I knew of it. I mean, I think I watched it when I was maybe about 10, 11 years old, maybe even 12, possibly around that time anyway, is when I first got introduced to Friday the 13th. It was a very old videotape, but it was one of those kind of old videotapes that the sound was so crackly and just so ancient, but it was brilliant. The film was so good, it was so different. I mean, it was funny because I knew of Jason Voorhees, I knew of the hockey mask killer, etc., the machete, all that. So when you're watching Friday the 13th, you're like, right, where's Jason? And I always thought like the I thought that was him. I thought it was meant to be. I thought it was like Jason's like signature sound. I don't know. I was young, dumb, and full of cum. So you just kind of went with that must be his noise. I don't know. It was like Jaws. Who did not think that when the shark approached people, that the shark dun 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 dun, which now when you look at it is so stupid, because I believed when I was like 7, 8 year old that the shark was literally dun 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 dun, but the noisiest fucking shark in the world. You'd be sitting there thinking, no wonder people are getting killed, they're just being stupid. No, you'd hear the noise and think, I'm at the war. So I originally thought that was Jason's noise. I don't know, you know, I was stupid, just ignore me. So when I was watching the very first Friday the 13th, I was like, right, where's Jason? It's a good film, but where's Jason? And at that point in time as well, I recognised a good horror film. And the Friday the 13th, the very first film, was a very good horror film. But you are sitting thinking, where's Jason? And then obviously, well, spoilers for people who haven't seen it, which it's been 40 years, come on. I mean, I watched it when I was like 10 years old, so nearly 20 years ago, and I watched it basically. And when it's discovered that the killer is Pamela Voorhees, Mrs. Voorhees, she introduced herself as Mrs. Voorhees, and it's revealed that Jason died because of the counsellors not looking after him, etc. He drowned, he's an ugly wee fuck, all that kind of shit. And obviously her revenge plot basically was just, I'll kill every camper or every counsellor in Camp Crystal Lake, aka Camp Blood. Makes sense. You're a bit pissed off. Your kid gets killed. He's mentally retarded. No, can't say retarded. He's mentally handicapped. Sorry, 21st century. Mentally handicapped, and you go on a killing spree every time someone comes to the camp. It's I would. Well, I wouldn't. Just don't calm down. So, like I said, the original film was brilliant. And the original film was directed by Sean S. Cunningham, who then obviously went on to become like the lead producer of the complete franchise. Now, legal reasons wise, there's not been a Friday the 13th film been made since 2009's very, very good, very well received by fans reboot, which obviously starred Derek Mears as this newer, upgraded, like Jason on steroids. Fantastic film. I mean, like the first 20 minutes, I remember seeing the first trailer, not really thinking about the cast as much, just thinking there's Jason, he's badass, he's cool, he's fast, he's powerful, he's got superhuman strength now, he's so cool, well, he always has, but it was a lot more grounded Jason, but he still had those techniques, those attributes to the original Jasons. I mean, it's brilliant. And I remember watching the trailer and being like, that's so cool, cool. And when you watch the film, in the first 20 minutes, you start seeing everyone getting killed off, and you're like, why is everyone getting killed off? Are they going to have like a kind of, like, I thought maybe that, I was like, how is this? Wait a minute, we're only 20 minutes in the film and everyone's getting killed? How this? And then all of a sudden, the title card of Friday the 13th, and you're like, oh, so it's like a prologue. Is it prologue or monologue? What's the first part of a book? Prologue, monologue? I don't know. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty badass. Never seen that before in a horror film, or never seen it before in a film in general. The title card doesn't actually come up until like 25 minutes into the film. And it was like a wee kind of introduction to Jason being badass. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's the real actual cast of the film. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty cool move to make for not just any film, but a horror film. You know what I mean? It was brilliant. So, Sean S. Cunningham obviously is the original director and producer, etc. And the reason why there's been no Friday the 13th film is legal reasons. So he's claiming that he owns Friday the 13th as a whole, and that he employed Victor Miller, who was the original writer of the Friday the 13th franchise. And Victor Miller is claiming that he created the characters Pamela Voorhees, Jason Voorhees. Fair enough, he did. By law, he has created those characters. But what Sean S. Cunningham is saying, he was hired to write these characters, so technically I own Friday the 13th. So there's a bit of a legal dispute that's been going on for about good 3-4 years now, and only just this year is actually going to court and getting dealt with. So it's an interesting battle if you keep up to date with it, and thankfully. One of the actors from Friday the 13th Part 3, Larry Zerzner, he actually played Shelley, can't remember. He played a character anyway. He played the character Shelley. I think he's the one, I can't remember his character, I can't remember who he plays again, but he played the character of Shelley in Friday the 13th Part 3. And he actually is a fully fledged legal lawyer, and he's actually keeping fans up to date with what's going on. And the way it's looking is that Victor Miller could win this case, but Victor Miller winning this case means that he's got control of the Friday the 13th, the original script, but then he cannot make any Friday the 13th films featuring Jason. Well, the hockey mask Jason, because hockey mask Jason didn't show up until Friday the 13th Part 3. The one with Larry Zerner, Shelley's character, the character of Shelley, sorry. So he technically can't actually make a hockey mask. He can't actually make it a hockey mask Jason, because that then means that because that's then Sean S. Cunningham then owns that basically, or is whatever company at the time made that, New Line, Warner Bros, whatever, then own that along with producer Sean Cunningham. So it's a very complex legal dispute. Now, don't get me wrong, as much as they cannot physically make a film right now, there's been numerous scripts in the works. I mean, there's been a sequel to the 2009 reboot, which sounded badass. It was under the working title of Friday the 13th Part 13, Friday the 13th Camp Blood, The Death of Jason Voorhees. It's set around about the winter time, so Jason in the snow. Just think of the visuals of that, like the blood hitting the snow. Oh, beautiful. And then there's been, obviously, the fan favourite of the franchise, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Fantastic film. It was I think that's the last of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. Tommy Jarvis being played by Corey Feldman in Part 4. I can't remember who played Tommy Jarvis in 5 and 6. I think it was a different boy in 5 and 6. But the director and director of Jason Lives actually has written a direct sequel to his film, Jason Never Dies. Now, it's supposed to have Tommy Jarvis coming back and just basically going one-on-one with Jason. So it's like Freddy versus Jason, only it's Tommy versus Jason. That's a fantastic concept. I love that. And it's supposed to be one of those kind of legacy sequels, like ignore everything else. So like Halloween 2018. I mean, everyone's jumping on that bandwagon. I said that in my previous video. Everyone jumps on my... Oh, actually, I've still to upload my movie news roundup video. So in that, I talk about like the fact that everyone's jumping on that Halloween 2018 bandwagon, or the Force Awakens bandwagon, basically. Sorry, bring back like original cast and just basically see what's what, pass the torch off, etc. And then there's been obviously another very wacky one, like LeBron James has then come out and been like, my production company, Spring Hill Entertainment, alongside Vertical Entertainment, are going to produce a new Friday the 13th reboot. Now, you'll probably think, LeBron James, why would that be? That's what it is. And from the LeBron James news, obviously, Chris Rock has then obviously been like, I'm going to do a new Jigsaw film. I'm going to do a new Saw film, which is now called Spyro, and that's been produced by Lionsgate. And it's supposed to come out this year. I think it's supposed to come out actually this month. And that's been pushed back to next year due to the coronavirus. Spyro looks fantastic. It's a very Saw legacy film. It's like the legacy of the complete 8 films of the Jigsaw films to the Saw films. Looks brilliant, but it's a spiritual sequel. It's not. It's from the Book of Saw. It's called Spyro from the Book of Saw. It's a spiritual sequel set in the same universe, but it's not Saw as we know it. Very much like the new Purge film. The new Purge film, I think it's called the Forever Purge, is a kind of side sequel to the Purge franchise. It's set in the Purge franchise, the Purge universe, but it's not a Purge film. It's, I think, if they're still going with this, I mean, there's not a lot of details that come out. They're still going with the same story. It's set around a bank heist, which I think is pretty genius, to be honest. But it's not like a Purge film, so I think that's the same with this new Saw film. It's not a Saw film, but it's set around the antics and the feels and the atmosphere of Saw, but it's not quite Saw. So yeah, back to Friday the 13th. So the Friday the 13th films have had highs and lows, and at the time they were out from the 70s through to the early 80s through to like the mid 90s to early 2000s. They have highs and lows, but they were at a perfect time when horror films could make like 15 horror films. They could make 15 sequels, and Aqua will make some money. Aqua will make the next one, because quite a few of them only made like a good few million over the budget, but they still got another one, Part 8, Part 9, etc. Because back then, like Friday the 13th, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, like Halloween, film franchises back then, as long as they made a lot of money, they just kept making more because they're easy, they're cheap, they're only a few $1 million to make. So, why stop? Just keep going until you get a good sequel. For example, the Police Academy sequel. Just keep making them and keep milking it until you get the perfect sequel. Sadly, they never got the perfect sequel. The Police Academy films died after Police Academy 3. Some people say 4. Some people say 2. Some people say the first one. I think 3, 4 was like the last of the good films. 5, 6, 7, yeah. Anyway, so Friday the 13th, I would love to see a new film. I mean, I'd love to see this Lego mumbo jumbo shite get dealt with and have a new film coming out like in the next few years. I mean, right now you can believe that probably a Friday the 13th movie would have been made for this year, the 40th anniversary, just to round off the 40 years of the Friday the 13th franchise, very much like the Halloween franchise, because you know that people would have jumped on the bandwagon after Halloween 18 and done a new Friday the 13th film. They're cheap, they're easy to make, just go for it. I mean, there's other ones. There's a Friday the 13th, The Beginning, which was going to be based around the origins of Pamela Voorhees and the husband. So Jason's dad, is it Eli? I think it's Eli Voorhees, and that'd have been brilliant. But again, the legal rights. Victor Miller could make that, but Sean S. Cunningham couldn't make that because obviously. But then again, if it's true, if he was hired by. If Victor was hired by Sean, then yes, it's Sean's rights. If Victor came to Sean for a script, then it's Victor's rights, but Victor can't make a hockey mask Jason film. He can only make Pamela Voorhees, and that's it. But then again, Sean then might not be able to mention Voorhees, might just be able to call him Jason. I don't know. It's a whole complete mumbo jumbo legal rights, but I'm sure, and obviously the coronavirus has kind of held everything back, but I'm sure once that has gone pissed in the wind, we'll get back the news on what's happening with Friday the 13th. So, like I said, I was only going to do a quick brief kind of like discussion of the first film, a few highs and lows. Like, I like Friday the 13th part. I mean, I watched them all again very recently, and I think they're all fantastic films. The only one I really just did not like, well, there's only a few. I mean, the New Blood, when it was like the telekinesis girl using like the mind reading shit, I didn't shite. Jason Takes Manhattan, fantastic idea, taking Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake and putting him in the middle of Times Square. So cool. Like, the only good thing about that film was the last 10-15 minutes when he actually got to Manhattan. That was so cool. The rest of the film was just so boring. It's on a boat and it's like, boring. But that concept, the last 10, 15, 20 minutes was brilliant. But the film was just terrible. So basically 1, 2, 6 were brilliant, and then the rest were just terrible. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, was an abomination. It was just basically made because why not? We've run out of ideas. We'll do the final Friday the 13th, just like Freddy done the Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare. But I would even Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare was an abomination, but it's a more enjoyable, fun abomination. Whereas Jason Goes to Hell was just so dark and just dry, just didn't work anymore. And then you had that wee tease at the end of Freddy's glove grabbing Jason's mask, taking him to hell, which obviously sparked Freddy vs Jason. And it took another 10 years to get that film up on the rope, up on the big screen, basically. And even then, Friday vs Jason was a fantastic film, so fun and dumb and stupid, but it was so good, so anticipated to happen, and we never got a sequel. And I don't get why, because it made so much money and it left off a wee cliffhanger of round 2, possibly. And obviously, as we know, Bruce Campbell, aka Ash from the Evil Dead, was supposed to be in that franchise. I think Hellraiser's supposed to join the franchise, Michael Myers, but again, legal rights, copyright issues, etc. never worked. But instead we got comic book issues, and we got a comic book story instead with Freddy vs Jason vs Ash. And I think we got Hellraiser included. I think we got someone else included. I can't remember, but I know there was a Freddy vs Jason vs Ash, which, if you see that on the big screen, think of the millions that would make. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to make $1 billion. I'm not going to say it would make 300-400 million, but it would definitely make enough just to regain the strength of each franchise to then make a separate Evil Dead movie, Friday the 13th, etc. But yeah. What do you guys think? Do you guys love the Friday the 13th franchise? Do you think it's time to revive Jason, or do you think it should just be left dead, done deal? Or do you think they should bring him into like another Friday vs Jason film to revive the franchise? Or do you think they should start with a Friday the 13th, The Beginning, and start with the Voorhees mum and dad, then do Jason, then, and have maybe like a trilogy of like the Jason origins? I don't know. Either way, I hope this dispute gets fixed. I hope the legal rights are given to the right person. I'd hate to see either one of them lose out, because obviously if Victor Miller is telling the truth and he wrote this script, it's his thing, his baby, then I think he should be allowed, he should be given his due basically, because obviously he then has missed out on a whole 40 years of money basically. So yeah, it's a shame if he's losing out on all this money, so he should be paid his due, and then we just move on forward and make a new Friday the 13th franchise film, which then would kick off the franchise. And even just give him producer rights, just give him something just to say that, do you know what, mate, well done, 40 years you've built me this franchise, let's go forward for another 40 years, they'll probably be dead by then, and just see what happens. So yep, happy Friday the 13th 40th anniversary everyone. As you can see, I'm wearing a Robocop t-shirt, but you know, and we're going to talk about Robocop by the way at some point. I don't know when, I need to get more information on what's going to happen here, but yeah, peace.